Open mic, what is up? We are February the 23rd.
What up?
This is episode number 22, and you can see Johnny's back after his month-long on the other side of the world. Philippines, the other side of the world, basically?
Oh yeah, basically, I'd say so. It's like a 24-hour time difference, so.
Oh. So yeah, basically, yeah. So how was it, man? Good time?
Oh, killer.
Yeah?
I had a great time. For the most part, it was business as usual, and then I always mix it up, gotta have that pleasure, and it was good. It was good. It was very, very, very good. I had a great time.
Right.
Yeah. Nothing too crazy went down, like I didn't see any beheadings.
Well, the one crazy thing that did happen is the missile crisis.
Oh,
the missile thing.
that for sure. That for sure was one of those moments in time that I was like, man, you know what? So many wild things happened to me while I've been out. I was there for one of the tsunamis that came through, so I survived Tsunami Survivors 2010, and now the missile crisis 2018.
Yeah. That guy lost his job.
That was 2018.
They ended up firing the guy.
Yeah, they did. They full on got rid of the guy. There was in the state itself. There's all kinds of. It's still in the news. They're talking about it. They're always, bringing that guy up. I saw they had an interview with homie, and they covered his face.
No shit.
Yeah, he's.
I would be embarrassed too. I wouldn't want to be selling.
And it's such it's a state, right? But it's still a small community, so you're relatively susceptible to run into anyone at any given time, anywhere. Just if it was to happen in, let's say something went down San Antonio, right? It was a Spurs guy or maybe one of the politicians there, who knows what, right? You get stuck to your given San Antonio radius of where you are scared to go out. You don't want to be caught at. It's like, I don't want to. Like you said, you're embarrassed or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just that area. Like if you were to go, maybe you get out to Dallas, you're probably not so worried. You get out to Houston, you're not so worried. You get out to El Paso, right? You're not so worried. In Hawaii, it happens. You're susceptible anywhere in the whole given state. You swell island to island, they're gonna recognize you. They're gonna know you. It's like I said, it's a big area, a lot of it's not uber populated, but I want to say there's roughly several million. And,
right.
Even amongst all that, you're still gonna be recognized and sought out, caught after they catch you in the grocery store. You're gonna be,
right. Hey, that's that guy.
Yeah, that's homie.
I want to ask you something too, because I've never been to Hawaii, but even though they are part of they're part of America.
The Union, yeah, they're part of the Union.
But they probably don't feel anything like the states, do they?
No, it feels almost like a whole new
country or something, right?
Yeah,
That's what I figured.
A whole new culture for sure. Country maybe not so much because you're readily speaking English and you're using the dollars and. Everything is,
stores are probably the same. But just mentality and
the mentality is definitely a different culture for sure.
Right.
Where the culture changes in a sense from, New York to LA. They have all different colloquialisms. They have different accents and so on and so forth. But there's still hot dogs and French fries and whatnot.
Right.
Well, Hawaii still carries on that very much American side. They're ingrained heavily with all the other immigrant culture that came through and boosted up. Always supporting it, whatever it may be. Mainly food wise, since we're talking about the hot dogs. But food wise, for sure, it's uber diverse.
So you were in Hawaii for a little bit, and then you went into the Philippines. Right?
Yeah.
That had to be. Well, you've been there a few times,
a few times.
But the dynamics from a paradise vacation tourist to what would you call? You can't call them a third world country because I would not consider them a third world country.
It's they're definitely second world. They're coming out of that third world.
Right.
Just
rougher edges, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. It's the very first time it was. I thought I had seen. I've been down into Mexico and other places, Brazil and whatnot, and the poverty is on a whole different level when you go outside of America. You go to these homeless places around. I've been to 6th Street when I was growing up, and the first homeless person I ever saw was uber stench, right? I could smell them for blocks away.
Wow.
Right, but it's select. It's like small, just one or two homeless people. You get out of the country and you see poverty on a like another scale where it's morals that you got to deal with. You're out there like tossing dollars and shit, and they're like trying to catch the little bit of fucking nickels and shit. So you find yourself in this. It's weird. You know what I mean? Your dollar goes so much further in some of those places, so you find yourself like willing to splurge and shit. It ain't nothing. It's costing me $5 for somewhere, in the States it's gonna cost you like
20 to 30, huh?
Yeah, 30, 50 maybe. You know what I mean? So
what
it depends. Some things, like electronics and whatnot, the discrepancy is huge. The margin for what you could purchase it for in the Philippines to what you can purchase it for in the States, it's pretty big. Food wise, also very large margins. If you want to buy a name brand, like if you were to buy Jim Beam over there, like we're drinking here, it's gonna be comparable.
Jim Beam Honey, they're not our sponsors, but it'd be great if they were.
Yeah, totally. baby responsibly.
The official drink of Open Mic. Until we find somebody else to sponsor us. Hey, unless you want to jump on that,
we got local liquors.
Right.
But so the food wise, you can feed almost 3 families for which you go out on a 2-person date.
Damn.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So you're like,
and
you got entourage and a crew, and then their homies.
So what kind of money is accepted over there?
The peso. They call it the peso. It's their version of the peso.
But also American dollars as well?
Yeah. Well, you exchange it.
Okay, so you do have to exchange it.
You have to exchange it. I've bought stuff with just giving them American dollars, but I had to give like $100 bill, and it was for some. It was. They knew that if they made it to the exchange, that it was going to be a bigger profit for them, and it was easier for me not to have to go. And so, but every other place you go is almost you're gonna have to deal in the peso and exchange it for them.
You said peso, peso,
however you want to pronounce it.
Same thing as Mexico.
So the Mexican peso is spelled P-E-S-O, and the Filipino peso is spelled P-I-S-O.
Oh.
So I might say peso or peso.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean?
I was thinking, I was like, fuck Mexico and
potato. Well,
right.
that's
envelope.
Yeah. That's the great
base,
history.
Plus, caramel, pecan,
right?
Yeah. I can keep going.
That's the great history about the Philippines is they were actually under Spanish rule for hundreds of years, and then on top of that, their rule was like governed through the Mexican, if you will, dukes or whatever at the time. It was all royal, and all this changed when like the royalty got knocked down in World War I and all that type of stuff, right? But up until that time, they were ruled by Mexico and governed out of. They were ruled by Spain and governed out of Mexico. So they had. Like I showed up, I'm telling you the culture. I'm like at home here. They call themselves, if they're mixed race, they call themselves mestizos, just like Mexicanos do or Latin Americans. If you're white and Native American, they call themselves mestizos.
Mestizos.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Do you know?
It just means mixed with Native and white blood. Mainly like Spanish.
Right.
Mainly Spanish.
I thought it was like a cool nickname, like Mutt here, you know what I mean? Like that. But they're like being serious. No,
it could be Mutt, you know what I mean? It is
okay.
like Mutt.
I thought that was like the literal
But it's
term.
distinct that it's mainly, like I said, a Spanish with the Native American or Indian.
Yeah, and you partaked in something that they don't allow that here, which is cockfighting.
Oh yeah, no, it's a thriving sport. It's an industry, sport, everything over there. It's
what would you compare it to? Here.
Here?
Right.
I would compare it to
like not the NBA, but more like
you could compare it to the NBA.
So are there stars then?
Oh yeah.
Like Gallo del Cielo. They actually like promote this particular cock. Is it like that kind of situation? Okay.
No, I mean I don't doubt it that it gets to that level, but all the stuff I usually go to, like the derbies and the tournaments I attend, All the stuff I've read and all the stuff I've seen, and as long as I've been into it, I gotta say that the stars are the breeders, or the people, are the
So you're like that
owners.
motherfucker always has good birds.
Yeah,
or something.
exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
so it's not the chicken.
It can.
I'd been so fucking. I was romanticizing this the fact that this guy like was carrying this golden cage with the chicken that's won 32 fights, you know, and that's what people are there for.
There are.
People are like, hey, that's Gavious yellow, you know.
There are, and those birds become what they call the brood cocks, become the guys, the cocks on the farm, the only cocks on the farm that begin the breeding or that do the breeding. So yeah, if you work yourself up to that status, like you killed enough, you become the only cock on the farm that's breeding. Well, one of the onlys, because there's different lines and so on and so forth. That being said, I've never heard. I mean, you hear about birds and different ones, but I can't say that. You show up and they have programs,
right?
And it's like, oh, this one's gonna be showing today. I mean, it's such.
Floyd Mayweather's bodyguards lead you to the fucking arena in that golden cage. You know?
So there's a lot of different varieties of fighting when it comes to cocking. You know, it mainly comes down to the blade, right? There'll be different versions of.
Oh, so they hook them up with blades, huh?
Oh yeah. So in the Philippines they use like a 3 or longer inch blade. So they're out there like big time cutters. You know, the Mexican scene, the Latin American scene, they typically use like a 2 inch, average right around there, 2 inch, right? We'll just call it that. And then the other scene is gaffing, and then there's, like just ball-legged. They actually cut the spurs and they put fake ones on. It's with like a wax type of like paraffin thing. Mm-hmm. But in the Philippines, it's all long knife. It's long knife, long knife, long knife. So those fights are decided sometimes within minutes. Wow. It's just like
it's always to the death. That's the myth, you know.
That is the myth, and that's a complete description of like 90% of the fights. But it actually comes down to the one that is gonna give up first loses.
Oh, so you've seen somewhere they both live.
Oh yeah. Well, to say that they both live, that's not a guarantee. I mean, they're cut up, right? Well, I've seen some in the gaff.
Yeah, but okay, so they didn't die in the arena.
No, they didn't die in the arena. In the Philippines, that's what's great about the legality of it, is they have people right off the pit floor. Like, you just make your way to the backstage, and there's guys sewing up these birds. You know what I mean? Like
trying to keep them alive.
Yeah.
See, and that's such a big myth right there, because people here in America, we hear cockfighting, and it's just this underground brutality.
Yeah, no, that's all propaganda. Right. Perpetuated by these
people who couldn't profit off of it.
Yeah, they could exactly. People that couldn't profit off of it, because one of the funny sayings over there is when they do catch criticism, because I like going to the big international tournaments, right, where people come from all over, the world. It'll be America all the way to Thailand and Egypt and Arabia, where they're bringing birds over to fight in this one locale. So you'll hear all the different stuff, and they got to come up with their own, if you will, like slogans of championing what they feel and what their culture is and so on. And it's like, you're the worst off because you just fry the motherfuckers. We fight them and let them do what they're born and bred and raised, and like, in the wild, that's what they're seeking. Right. The reason behind the crow, everyone that is annoyed, the
alpha male.
The reason behind the crow and why they go off is that the roosters will crow if they're far enough away and they bring themselves in proximity, and they'll crow it off
till they find each other. To fight.
To fight. To merely squab it out.
That's gangster as fuck, dude.
Yeah, so everyone's always annoyed, and like that's what they're calling out, is like, who else is on my lot, right?
Like, and some others like, I'm over here.
And you have other breeds.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, you have other breeds that aren't game, or they're game to a certain extent, but they're not like full on game bird status. Where what'll happen is they can live in close proximity if one will quib to the other, right? If one will give in and be like, all right, you know what, I'll let you breed all the hens and just let me hang out and enjoy the festivities, right? Like he might be one of the underling might be able to, we'll call him the beta male, right? He might be able to like sneak off a hen or two, and the alpha male cock will let him slide. But when you have two bloodline game birds on the same yard, that ain't happening. They're going to the death. You know what I mean? They're going to the last one ain't gonna give no more. When one finally quits, and it's like I said, if they're game, they're gonna go to the death, and that's when it's over with, and the decision is made that, well, I can breed them all.
Right.
So people are actually denying these, you know, the game birds, the actual their true nature. When they say, oh, you shouldn't do that, they're denying their actual, their heritage, their nature, their culture, their whatever it is to feel like that foul.
Their instincts.
Yeah, exactly. These people are completely, you know, jumping in and saying, and so yeah, that's one of the funny ones is it's like, well, you fry them, but we fight them. What's the difference?
Not only do they fry them, they mass produce them in a warehouse where they
They
can't walk. They don't get to entertain a normal life. It's brutal, man.
So anybody who has that, you know, like you said, you've seen that, you know, and so that's the common thing that people will bring up. It's like, oh, they're harming them, and I challenge anyone to go watch those movies that you're speaking of, any of the documentaries that talk about.
Yeah, when they show the mass production.
Yeah, the mass production, and you watch any video of a world class breeder on the scale of a Oscar Mayer or any of a Butterball, but where he's doing actually the gaming out of them, you're gonna see these birds are cared for better than Michael Jackson was. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Each one has its own doctor.
I know personally, you're totally right. Because growing up, I hung out with. I grew up in the barrio right up the road. You know what I mean? And I went to cockfights as a kid.
Yeah.
Back in the '90s, it was normal.
Yeah.
You know.
It wasn't as, it was illegal in a sense, but it wasn't as, it was still only a misdemeanor. It wasn't as strongly sought after. So yeah, growing up, we saw them readily. You know.
Yeah, people would have barbecues out in the middle. You know, 3 or 4 miles out of town at somebody's property. We'd have a barbecue, and they'd be cockfighting. You know, a couple hours later, and it was fun. It was great. Dude.
It was such a great time that it stuck with me since then.
The arena,
and it's still one of my passions that I'll fly around the world to check that shit out. You know what I mean? So
me personally, let me paint a picture for you, for the people who haven't been to a cockfight. You know, we're out in the middle of nowhere in this pasture in Texas, and you know, the arena was lit up like any other football arena would be, or any.
Oh yeah, the lights got to be there.
Yeah,
you got to see the fact.
Yeah, and it's a dirt platform. Sometimes they have like a tin fencing around to make a square ring. You know, the railing or whatnot, whatever you want to call it. The fencing is like, you know, maybe about a foot or two high, so the chickens stay in and they duke it out, man. And it's like Johnny said, you have these families, all different families that are raising chickens. And they give them a great life because this is a sense of pride for them. So they're not going to just give them squalor lifestyle.
No, I'm telling you, these birds are well cared for.
Absolutely.
You know, some better than some pets. An average person might have, you know, a dog or a cat, and they're like, oh, I gotta feed the cat, or oh, I gotta feed the dog.
Sleeps in the bed with him.
People who own these game birds, well, you know, chicken people in general take shitloads of care for them. On top of that, if they're gaming them out and they're doing all this, man, these guys, where you know, like you're like, oh, I gotta go pick up whatever it is for the fleas or whatever for your dog or your cat. Yeah. No, they have pills on hand, dewormers, you know, antibacterial like flushes and all this stuff. Like, I'm telling you, these birds are cared for sometimes better than, you know, a kid. Some of these kids out in the day-to-day life, they're out having to be fed Mickey D's because the parents can't stick around to make anything healthy for them, right? Nuh-uh. People with game birds, they're feeding them quality shit.
Right.
They're going down to
they're exercising.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, they get exercise because they want them to perform.
They train. I've seen training. I've seen the training.
It's when it comes, man, with cocking, you can describe it in so many different ways. You put it in just a simple sense of any athlete. You know, you can have a person who's born with all the credentials to be a fucking badass, to be, you know, his physique, he's got it all right, but it doesn't have the heart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He falls short. So what do you have to do? You have to like train it in him. You have to dig him hard. You have to make him like grit and grind and get this performance out of him. Same thing, same likeness with some of the birds. You have that where they're, you know, like you've bred them up and they've got all the bloodline you want, but you gotta be there to train them up and make them perform how you like to.
Right.
And there's other birds that just have that fucking heart, and the training still has to be there. You still have to get up every day to day, do your thing, you know, make them perform. Because you show up with your average bird, it's once you make it to the NFL, that might work in high school, right? You do nothing. You just show up, play the game. You try to do that in the NFL, you're getting run over, you're getting smashed.
Yeah, there's a
so you
different
have
level.
to keep up with the practicing, with the training, with everything that it, you know, that specific athlete, these warriors have to do.
Right.
So,
Absolutely. I was just wondering if that take, because what I saw was a low scale version of it. You know, just a bunch of homies that are carrying on the tradition of their
super
Juanita.
low scale.
Yeah,
Super
yeah,
low scale.
yeah, because it's illegal here, and
Yeah.
these are a bunch of Hispanic or Mexican guys, whatever you want to call it, that were carrying on the traditions of their father and their abuelitos, and they're and it was nothing that it was nothing bad. It was just having a good time. You meet
There's
other
a select
families.
group of white people.
Yeah.
To put it right, there's a select group of white
That
people
showed up. That got to
but
watch, yeah.
otherwise, the majority is like you're saying, the Latinos.
And it would usually be like the bosses of some of these guys, you know what I mean, or
Some-
co-workers of some of these guys.
There was only there was probably like 3 different families around town that they actually had birds themselves.
Right.
You know, not to put anyone on blast, but here locally, you know, like you said, it was every other couple Latino households might. Well, for every white household in here, I'm saying there was like 1 out of 10, like
Right.
1 out of 25 actually, because I mean we went to high school with all of them, and I know there was like 2 or 3 that had game
I
birds.
was just about to say that. I remember being in
Yeah.
middle school, and we were both of us the same age, same grade, same age. We were in middle school in the mid '90s and whatnot. And I could, like you said, dude, I could think of 3 dudes right now that were our age when we were in middle school. What is that, 13, 14?
Yeah.
They were fucking raising fighting birds, and they would tell us about it, and they would hold, you know, fucking have these birds, and they'd train them, and that's what they were doing. You know what I mean? So yeah, I was, like I said, I was just wondering because I saw a low scale of it. What do you think the average size of a bird was that was fighting?
They shoot for anywhere high 4s to mid 5s.
What are you saying? Feet?
No, weight,
Oh,
pounds.
okay.
That's pounds.
And what do you think the like a foot 15 inches high, maybe 6?
That's pretty. That's a little bit harder to say, to be like for sure on height. So stag status, you know, like a younger bird, because they fight them, they start.
Okay, let's instead of fucking figuring out
Almost all the calculations that get done in breaking down when a bird's gonna go against another one will be weight wise, and then once the weight is met,
just like boxing and anything else.
yeah, exactly.
They go
And once
by
the
weight.
weight is met, then if it's a hack, so there's a lot of different ways you match up, right?
Right.
And if you match up where it's not me and you is a for certainty, but it's a possibility, like, well, let's see what we like about each other, right? You know, like, do I want
Yeah.
to take you on? They might put them back to back and check the.
I've
check-
seen where they put their
check the
heads against
stance.
heads and see if
Oh,
the-
yeah,
you know.
that if they really are
Don't like
partial
each
to
other,
yeah, if they don't
yeah.
like each other, so on and it almost always comes down to weight. And then that being said, then they might check out whether or not how the matchup looks.
Right.
Yeah, so a lot of guys don't like, if they don't have to, don't like to take on birds from off colors. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because your typical will be like a red or that what they call gray, that yellow look.
So you can tell them apart, I guess, right?
So it depends. Like a lot.
Because I figured you'd want 2 birds who weren't the same color to fight.
You would think that, but if a bird isn't partial, if a cock isn't partial to seeing his enemy be that like off, he won't take him immediately for his fucking his counter. You know, he'll take him as like, what the
So it's
hell?
almost like he's racist against his own kind.
Almost.
Like he wants to fight
You
his
know what I
own
mean?
kind.
He's still figuring it out.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, because what happens is, you know, they see each other,
God,
and,
it's-
and if they have the full on, like, well, he looks like, you know, every other fucking bird I've seen, it's on, right? But if he's off, if it's like a white bird or a blue bird or something like that, he might spock him a little bit and check him out. And in that checking out, the white bird, who knows what this other one is, will take full advantage of it. You know what I mean? Because he's already seen that 9 out of 10 roosters are this red color.
Right.
He's like, oh, well, that's what he is. I'm beelining for him, and I'm gonna.
Right.
When one who hasn't seen an off color yet might stand back a little bit and try to get an idea of what's going on quite yet. Like, do I want to fight him or do I not? Is this guy against me? Is he not? Like, who knows what? And like I said, the advantage being that the element of surprise, the off-color bird would take advantage, like shoot in or who knows what. So some guys don't want to take on, even though the weight match is there. If it's off-color, they'll be like,
That's weird.
it is. There's, man, when it comes to gaming, game cocking, like, and people and their superstitions, it's over the moon with them.
How high is superstition in that? Pretty huge?
Over the moon with them, man. Yeah, over the moon with them, dude.
So you said normal weight was 4 pounds. What do you think about this fucking bird here? Would you like to see this bird fight?
Oh, look at this monstrosity coming out. Damn. That's a silky beast. Oh, that's got to be 12 pounds.
Yeah, that's huge, ain't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the size of a dog. Look at the size.
Yeah,
of it. Look at the
huge.
feet.
I like how he had to crawl his big ass out of that coop. So 9 times out of 10, a bird like that ain't gonna want to fight. He'll you know what? He'll posture up. He'll posture up with the other bird, and if it's identical to him, they'll posture up against each other, and one might throw, and the other one will give in to posturing. You know what I mean?
That is a huge fucking bird. Look at that.
Yeah. I'm gonna put money that he's not gamed out.
Look, there's another one.
I'll take that bet.
I wonder what breed that is.
It's like a silky. They call
King.
some kind of a silky. A certain class, cause man, that sucker's huge,
Very.
bruh. Like, yeah, you might be scared of that thing if
Yeah,
it came
it
at
looked
you.
pretty small and sluggish, but man, if it was like spry and it had agility, that'd be badass fights.
So just like you said, so you could. I've seen birds as big as that, 6 pounds, that will come out and fight, and that just comes down to, you know, they do the training, they do the weight cutting, they do all the little knickknacks that get a bird ready.
So your shirt, what is that all about?
Oh, the sabonguero.
Yeah.
Hashtag.
I see it has a rooster on it.
Yeah, so that is that's what you call a gallero, what you call a cocker in Tagalog, sabonguero.
So like that's a breeder.
That is just a person who's, it could be a breeder. It's a person who's really just into the sport itself.
Oh, like a fan.
Yeah, to like put it as a brush, you know, a wide brush, like, you know, cover everything. It's just a person who's into the sport, a sabonguero. Because the act of the chicken fight is called a sabong over there. And sabonguero is a person who's, you know, it could be, you know, like you asked, is it the breeder? There's, I don't know, at least 10 hats, right, to wear in the game cocking scene, right? There's the breeder, there's a guy who feeds, and these all could be one dude, or they might, on certain farms, it could be different guys, right? They could have a person for each little task, or it could be 2 or 3 people that perform multiple tasks, depending on how quality of a crew you got, so on, how knowledgeable, so on and so forth, right? So there'll be the breeder, most important, or, you know, thereabouts. Next will be, you know, the feeder and the caretaker, the medicine guy.
Damn, that many fucking people.
Oh yeah. You know, there's gonna be the farm owner. The farm owner might not always be the breeder. You know, and I guarantee you the farm owner isn't the feeder or the medicine guy, and so on. You know what I mean?
That's nuts. I just figured it was all like maybe 1 to 2 guys.
No, it's big money over there. So the person at the top of the pyramid, at the top of the heap, is delegating all these different jobs to different people, and sometimes there's multiple people at the top of the heap. You know, it could be a big endeavor. You know, like me and you went in on a game farm, and we hired a breeder, right? So we could be at the top, and then the breeder's next, right? So on and so forth. It's like any thriving business. There's 101 variables to think about and to maneuver around, and, you know, enjoy.
That's crazy. That's such a big,
Huge
market there.
And that's just there. Internationally, like if you go to the Middle East or Thailand, it's maybe not equally as big, but
Even the Middle East.
even the Middle East, yeah, they have birds. They have birds that come from, like I said, I've seen on the thing Egypt and Saudi Arabia, all these different farms that come from over there. It's for like what we saw, the really low key. That's the person that's in the hustle game. That's a person trying to make $1 out of 15 cents, right?
Right.
Now, the events I like to attend and see on the large scale, those are the people that are been hustling this scene and make. I'm telling you, like I've seen them bet 50,000, hundreds of thousands of dollars. American. That's American. It's millions of dollars in their money. You know,
they're betting that much on a cockfight?
On a single fucking fight, dog.
Wow. Yeah. 50 fucking grand on a cockfight.
50 grand on a cockfight, dog.
Damn, that'd be exciting. That'd be exciting for me to watch, knowing that guy had. Now I don't even have to be any part of it.
But you just know there's so much
fucking
skin in the game, right? It's like that's what's hot. That's what's making you like.
But I want to wrap this conversation up.
Okay.
But I want to ask one thing before we get out about it. Is kind of just describe the venue for me in the Philippines of this arena.
One of my favorite ones to attend.
So there's multiple.
There's multiple. Yeah, it's if you wanted to in the season, maybe even out of season, because they have what they call stag wars, and those are birds that are just getting to a certain age and not quite full on cocked out. So they got stags, bull stags, cocks, you know, so on and so forth. You could all year round, any given day, you could attend a derby. You could attend a cockfight somewhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, like the joke here is that there's a Starbucks on every corner. Is it that?
I'm gonna say in every community, there's a Sawbone house. There's a cockfight. There's a place. Like if for every burg, maybe not every, possibly every Stonewall. You know what I mean? There's maybe all the Stonewalls and the Harpers got to come together in the burg, but it's like that in every province, every, if you will, county seed will have a cock house in it.
And for your listeners who ain't familiar with the area, Stonewall is a small town of maybe 200-300 people, possibly.
Yeah, it's a smaller community inside of our given county.
And our town is about 12,000 people.
Fredericksburg is the county seat, if you will.
Right,
you know, it's the main province, like place to go in the county, I would say.
So there's one in every area.
To put it in like another understandable scale, these birds are raised on a level of like our FFA, our show cows, our show goats, our show pigs, right? Where from chick status, if you want this bird to fight, to go on to these other, like I'm saying, all these derbies that are sanctioned by the government, that are being licensed, and you got to have everything by the numbers. These birds, they take them from chicks, and they got to register them, and they have these registration numbers from the second they take it in as chick to the when it dies as a fighting cock, or maybe it dies in between, right? But it has its own registration number, and they're cared for, like I said, better than a show cow or a show pig or a show goat. It's at that level. And to describe one of these venues, man, one of my favorites is held in what they call Ali Stadium, the Araneta Coliseum. Yeah,
and you said that's where Ali really fought?
Yeah, the Thrilling in Manila was held in this very venue.
And that's where they have the cockfights.
And that's where they have the slasher. Yeah, one of my
favorite.
One of the oldest, most prestigious international derbies ever is held in that venue right there. And
wow.
Yeah. You walk in just knowing the history, and you're already like stoked, like because man, I liken it to any sport, right? There's fixing to be battles taken in. There's fixing to be bloodshed. There's gonna be anguish. There's gonna be all these happy thoughts. All everything right's gonna happen in this small area. So that's just popping in the air, man. It's on another level. I get stoked just thinking about it. I'm ready.
Yeah, that would have been neat. Me being such a big fight fan, I think that's something that I would have been like, whoa, all these stadiums.
The case is that if it's a big enough venue, they'll have it on a big screen, and like you're saying, you're a fight fan, being able to see the birds act. I mean, because like a lot of people think they just go up and they're just like, just two-stroking it the whole time. These birds are bred and, if you will, cold. You know, they won't, if it doesn't have a certain trait that they're looking for, then it won't get carried on. It won't get bred to the other extent. And I'm telling you, some of these birds are cutting hooks, doing left, right, fucking 1-2 in it. Yeah, you just gotta have that eye to see it. Right, and that's what the big screen is badass. Is like you can catch it and be like, did you see that action?
Okay, that's crazy. They're all on big screens.
Yeah, they're all big
so
screens.
Ali Stadium is pretty big, and there was thousands of people to watch this fight. Now, for those particular cockfights,
maybe not thousand, maybe 1,000.
That's still quite a bit.
That's still quite a bit. I would say so. It gets pretty full, but I don't know what the venue numbers are, and I don't want to exaggerate it. It's a lot of people. It might be 3,000 or 4,000. I don't know.
Wow. So
a lot has to do with the timing. Like if you show up early, before work day's over, it's maybe a third of the way full.
Damn.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
You hang out through the work day, and everyone gets off of like 5 or 6. Right. Yeah, it's well over half to 2/3 of the way full. I've never seen the stadium completely full. I'm not gonna lie, but it gets packed. And the reason I gotta factor that in. A big reason probably why the seats aren't full is because there's shitload of action happening right on the ground floor. Like the ground floor, the ground floor is like you've seen Hollywood movies and they highlight Wall Street and it's dudes in blue suits like blah 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 blah. Yeah, it's a madhouse right there, like changing numbers and like blah 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 blah.
Same thing with the cockfight.
Same with the ground level on the cockfight. It's just like dudes in your face, like
calling out bets.
Take my bet or don't, or what's going on, and then they call it off or they switch off. Right? Yeah, on the ground floor, you want to liken it. Immediately, it itself is like I'm saying, like a Wall Street highlight of a Hollywood flick, where it's just like exchanging of all different kinds of information, right?
That's crazy.
Very much so. You almost just sit back and take it in, like wow. And thousands and thousands of dollars are being, exchanged
on one fight.
Yeah, on one fight in that process.
Damn. It would be a neat experience. So it'd be neat to do one day. One of these days, I'm gonna go with y'all.
For sure, I hope so, man.
Sure.
I always suggest to anyone, the cocking in and of itself, you might only want to go 1 day or 2 days with me. You know what I mean? Right. I try to make it every day I can, right? But there's so many other things to do to enjoy that the place itself is you'll have a great time. You have a great time.
I'm down. So we're gonna switch it up real quick to another story. Since you were gone, did you hear about the shooting, the school shooting in Florida?
I did. I was actually in Hawaii when that happened, and it was, I do a weekly cookout with the family over there, with Bobby's fam. They do a weekly cookout, and it was one of like the bigger topics. We were like, wow, what the hell? How many? When? Like when was the last one? What, so on and so forth.
And it sucks because here in America, it's started a huge gun control topic again. Which last time we faced the gun control topic was
that just Vegas?
The Vegas shooting. Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. So now it's gotten to be this huge gun control, and I've seen it all. Like I said, I pay attention to Facebook and social media to kind of, it's the heartbeat of society, is how, like I said. Yeah. So I've seen so many people talking about gun control, so it's a huge topic that everybody's talking about. And where do you stand with the whole gun control?
I think that's BS, the gun control. Me, myself, I'm a person that feels...
You allow people should have guns.
Oh, yeah. It's the stupid, what's the old saying? Guns don't kill people, people kill people.
Yeah, and that's as simple as it is.
And to me, the gun topic being brought up is another farce to like society's not willing to deal with the truth of what's going on with, we say Americans, right? But I want to say humanity in and of itself is having a real hard time with what's going on. You likened Facebook, all that as our modern day and age, like where we pick up all the stuff. And it is that for everyone, but they're getting lost in the sauce of just the simplicity of it.
Lost in the sauce.
Yeah,
I
you
like
know,
it.
it's so good, right? You're thinking like, man, all this great stuff on the phone is like I can easily access all my homies. I could check out chicks at the ready. I don't just have to go down to the grocery store. I got honeys right here, right? You get lost in the sauce. It's so delicious, right?
Right.
You know, like the taxation of your brain in that process of like just being soaked in on the phone so long, and then everything else I mean, I say the phone, but it's a lot of society too.
So you don't think any kind of gun control laws is going to change anything?
No. I think they need to deal with society as a whole. You know
I agree.
What I mean? Like the drug epidemics. We talked about that loosely. You know, like the society, the suicide rates and drugs being kind of coinciding, and then we talked loosely about the Vegas guy and all the past shooters being hopped up on pharmaceutical pills. You know,
and that shooter as well, the shooter that from Florida, he was
on pills.
Yes.
See what I mean? Like, and so everyone's like, oh, guns, but nothing about pills. Nothing.
Because big pharma pays
Exactly. So like to me, it's just it's gonna get like swept under the rug until society as a whole. See, like that's why I guess I don't really know what, right? I don't know if it's a propaganda machine that builds up the gun thing so people forget about the pill thing, or I don't know. But if it's a group of us human beings as a whole and not these corporations that are getting this whole movement started, the like people as a whole, these beings that we are, need to bring up the real shit, like the pills. And you solve the pill problem, you solve the killing problem. I think. I don't know. Maybe and pills is kind of a pretty like just lump it all together.
Yeah.
But I mean, all that shit that people are
prescription meds is the right. It's because pills, ibuprofen ain't fucking anybody up.
Yeah,
prescription meds like Zoloft or whatever the fuck, all these other things.
You see the commercials. I don't know the names, but you see
those are the things that are fucking people up.
For sure.
Anyway, but I agree with John. I don't think any kind of gun control is going to stop anybody from it's society that's doing it, and for some reason we live in a society, and I hate to say this because I enjoy Call of Duty games. I enjoy watching movies with killings and action and fucking whatever. It's Rambo, whatever.
It's so ingrained in human nature. The Romans did it for enjoyment.
Right.
Real deal, not fake stuff.
Right.
Real deal. Like we could, like I was telling you, you could see it on a big screen. You could see some blood and guts, real deal, and we're not far away from those. We think, oh, that's ancient culture. In the scope of time, we
just do it in a different form.
Yeah, we do it fake style.
Right.
We're still caught up in that like blood and guts, but we fake it out.
We placebo it.
Yeah. So who's the better human, for faking it or for actually doing something that's like legit? You know what I mean? So like we like to look down on those folks, but we're not too far off from them.
Yeah, calling them barbarians and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I just don't know. I don't know what the solution is to this situation with the shootings in schools, the shootings in church. There's a lot of killing going on, and there's really no. Like I said, gun control is not going to stop it. But what is going to stop it? And I have to say that the people who are in control to do those kind of changes, make those kind of changes, like Donald Trump and fucking any of these other people on Congress, they're not doing anything to stop anything.
They get paid.
I want to play a video of this father who his daughter was killed in the Florida shooting. He and a bunch of other kids went to the White House to try to talk to the president and others about gun control. So this is let's take a look on this.
Got a good shot there.
Let's take a look at this.
We're here because my daughter has no voice.
Oh, sorry.
She was murdered last week and she was taken from us. Shot 9 times on the 3rd floor. Now, we as a country failed our children. This shouldn't happen. We go to the airport. I can't get on a plane with a bottle of water, but we leave it. Some animal could walk into a school and shoot our children. It's just not right. And we need to come together as a country and work on what's important. And that's protecting our children in the schools. That's the only thing that matters right now. Everyone has to come together and not think about different laws. We need to come together as a country, not different parties, and figure out how we protect the schools. It's simple. It's not difficult. We protect airports, we protect concerts, stadiums, embassies, the Department of Education that I walked in today that has a security guard in the elevator. How do you think that makes me feel? In the elevator, they got a security guard. I'm very angry that this happened, because it keeps happening. 9/11 happened once, and they fixed everything. How many schools, how many children have to get shot? It stops here with this administration and me. I'm not gonna sleep until it's fixed. And Mr. President, we're gonna fix it. Because I'm gonna fix it.
It is idiot.
I'm not gonna rest. And look at my boys need to live with this. I want to see everyone. You guys look at this. Me, I'm a man, but to see your children go through this, bury their sister. So that's what I keep saying this, because I want it to sink in, not forget about this. We can't forget about it. All these school shootings, it doesn't make sense. Fix it. Should have been one school shooting, and we should have fixed it. And I'm pissed, because my daughter, I'm not going to see again. She's not here.
Tell him, brother.
She's
Get
not
it off
here.
the chest,
Yeah.
bro. Tell him.
She's in North Lauderdale at whatever it is, King David Cemetery. That's where I go to see my kid now. And if it stops, we all work together and come up with the right idea that school safety. It's not about gun laws right now. That's another fight, another battle. Let's fix the schools, and then you guys can battle it out whatever you want. But we need our children safe. Monday,
For
tomorrow,
fucking
every day,
sure.
kids are gonna go
Then
to
you guys
school.
can battle it
Think
out whatever you
everyone-
want, you
everyone's kids
idiots.
are safe? I didn't think it was going to happen to me. If I knew that, I would have been at the school every day if I knew it was that dangerous. It's enough. Get together, work with the president, and fix the schools. That's it. No other discussions. Security, whatever we have to do. Get the right people, the consultants. These are our commodities. I'm never going to see my kid again. I want you all to know that. Never, ever will I see my kid. That's how I want it to sink in. It's eternity. My beautiful daughter, I'm never going to see again. And it's simple. It's not, we can fix it.
I was almost a school
I'm
shooter.
not a big fan of showing that long of a video, but I felt it was such a powerful video. And he said something that Johnny acted towards, and I agreed with it when I first
I thought
saw
it when
it.
he first said it earlier too.
When he said, this isn't about gun control, this is about fixing or protecting our kids. Boom. Point blank. It should be that fucking
It's not
easy.
red or blue. It's get this shit.
Yeah, this
fucking
isn't
done.
about you being a fucking Republican, me being a Democrat.
Yeah.
This isn't about you fucking...
Not who saved the day.
Yeah.
Just get the shit
This
done.
isn't about how you feel
Yeah.
about fucking my kind of law that I want to pass,
Yeah.
and you have a problem with me. No, this is our resources with our children. Let's fix it. And that dude is spot on.
For
That
real.
that guy brave. You know?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I wish I could shake his hand and buy him a beer.
He was brave and cordial and all that all at the same. Like,
And I gotta say,
you know,
he may not have been elegant with it, but that's not a situation you need to be elegant
No,
with. That was a passionate plea for let's fucking make something happen.
not overly emotional. You know what I mean?
It was just the right amount.
Just the right.
He said
yeah.
pissed in a
Yeah.
situation you probably shouldn't say pissed, but that hit it home.
No,
It hit it home.
You know me, like
I'd have said a lot more than that.
I've had friends tell me like, "No, well, let me deal with this because I know like I'll just flavor it right." And then they're always like, "Well, no, you deal with this because you'll flavor it," you know. And it's one of those times where like that guy did it just right, you know.
There's a lot of talk about what to do, you know, and I keep seeing all these situations about arming the teachers, you know, which I've seen from quite a few people.
Excuse me, folks.
I've seen
Get
from
another little squirt.
I've seen from a lot of people, or people that are actually teachers, and nobody feels that that's a right solution. So some other solution needs to come up. Because teachers don't want to be packing fucking guns. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not their job. That's not their fucking job.
To me, that's like right. You know how we could get more guns sold right at this moment? We say
Let's arm the teachers.
Yeah, let's arm the teachers. That's just one of those another selling points. You know?
Well, I wanna show another video, and this came out very recently with the school shooting, and it's a device that can save countless lives. So this is something that a gentleman figured out how to create, and it's something that definitely should be in school. Real simple solution.
I hate to be the Debbie Downer. It is very simple, and it would work, and it would save a lot of lives.
I mean, they can get it if they want, but it's going to deter them from trying very.
I'm gonna tell you that I think
look at
the
that.
Columbine guys, they see that they'd have put a bomb on it. You know what I mean? And then you're just putting yourself under more.
But that I don't.
Maybe they just get all like Al Capone and spray.
I think it's smart. And there's
No, it is smart. I'm not thinking. Like I said, I hate to be the
look
Debbie
at
Downer.
look at all these different assets.
Wow.
There's 3 different versions of it. I think the average school shooter ain't gonna have the wherewithal and the resources to go through that, to get through that. So I think that needs to be in every classroom. I think that's smart. That's a good start to the change that gentleman was pleading for. I think you start giving those to schools, put them in every classroom, so that if some shit goes down, the teacher can go and put that in place.
Yeah.
And like you said, you can get through it. But let's say that a shooter does want to take the time to try to get through one. Yeah, a normal a normal guy, it's going to take him 10 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
And by then, you've helped stop him from killing lots of people within that 10 minutes. Because by then, people are going to be getting in to stop him, or whatever. So I think those are brilliant. I think that's a first good step right there. It's just to fucking give that to all the classrooms. Obviously, it's going to be expensive.
Yeah.
But it would stop situations. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a cool shooting, man. That was a bummer. That was a big wake-up call for a lot of people, that there needs to be something put in place to help stop these shooters, these madmen, whatever you want to call it, these mentally disturbed people.
Yeah.
They're
Whatever it may
it's
be.
rampant. It's becoming rampant.
I say pills, but it could, like you said, it could be honest, just mental depression. There's no telling. The mental illness of being ostracized and then really wanting to be recognized at your given point in wherever you are in history, right? Like that in and of itself is its own sickness, and some they seek that out. Some of the shooters, the glitz and the glamour. Like I had my 15 minutes of fame. Now everyone will know my name forever, type of shit. I don't get the mentality, but it's out there.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny because they highlight these stories in the news about these shootings and whatnot, and I saw this thing the other day that I want to show you, and it was a video that kind of said that the social media is not showing you everything. Like for instance, like this is a story that says terrorists you never heard about.
Over the past few months, there have been several domestic acts of terrorism that many of you haven't even heard of. Many could argue it's because they were either diverted or unsuccessful, and that is why they flew under the radar. But then you look at the attempted bomber in Times Square who blew himself up, but his lack of success didn't stop Donald Trump or other conservatives from lambasting him as the scumbag he is. So then when you look at the diverted airport bomber in North Carolina, or the attempted terrorist attack that took place aboard an Amtrak train leaving California, who by the way was ever so discreetly charged with terrorism, you begin to ask yourself, why is Donnie not tweeting about those failed attacks? And why does it take a few minutes of scrolling through Google to get the details of these attempted terrorist attacks? And then you realize, white dude. The first attack that flew under Trump's, if he's not brown, I don't care about it, radar, it took place in Asheville Regional Airport in North Carolina, where a white man carried a bag filled with an improvised explosive, entered the airport, dropped it, then left. Investigators eventually found that in the bag was an ammonium nitrate fuel oil explosive that, according to criminal complaint, have been used in a number of terrorist-related incidents around the world. When one of these explosive devices come into contact with a flame or ignition source, it explodes violently, and nails or ball bearings are often items added to the device so that it increases the chance of devastation. Thankfully, authorities located the bag and disarmed the device before it was scheduled to detonate at 6 a.m. that morning, just as a fresh round of travellers were scheduled to arrive at the airport. But I'm sure you heard of this though, right? I mean, his face was plastered all over social media as a terrorist, right? The second example involves a white supremacist by the name of Taylor Michael Wilson from St. Charles, Missouri, who,
So
by the
what
way,
do- how do you
reached
feel
a
about
secure
that?
area in an Amtrak.
This guy is basically saying there's a lot of terrorist attacks that have been going on in our country,
And we haven't even heard about him. I haven't heard of any of that shit.
and he's basically saying it's because the common denominator is they are white males trying to make a terrorist act. So that's why we're not hearing it. So we're hearing it if it's a Hispanic or a minority of some type. How do you feel about that? You feel there's some actually juju to that, or you think it's BS?
I know. I definitely say that there's some juju to that.
So-
You know what I mean? There's some type of, bigger picture play.
The magician thing over here to over
Yeah,
here.
exactly. I don't know who it was, but one of the comedians. I don't know who. Right? We were watching so many shows the other night. Said it best that. I want to say at the time when he said it, it was I don't know how many 11 mass shooters, or maybe it was 11 mass shooters. He said out of those 11, only 2 of them were from the country or countries that are on Trump's ban, and that the other 9 are all the tiki torch white people, as he phrased it.
Right.
So it could lead to that. It could lead to that whole don't showcase our own, how I was saying, they don't want to address the pill thing, they want to address the gun thing. They don't address our folks doing anything to our shit, just address the shit that we can really blast other people for.
Right.
Which, to me, there's always an agenda. Being that I look at the world as it is, right, it's this globalized mechanism that we have going on right now. I look at everything capitalistically, because to me that's where globalization is trying to take us, right? To a whole scope of global capitalism. So that being said, I look at the dollars of it all, and to me that's what it says is dollars. There's more money in saying all these different other races are doing shit, and let's go to their places, let's create these walls to keep them out from our place. But don't talk about the ones that are here doing other shit. You know what I mean? Because then it'll be like, oh, we got to solve these problems here at home. And then, that's not the money they want. They want the money to go out and take over all these other places while they can. So I don't know.
If that story is true, it's scary to know that the media is fucking over society.
Yeah.
Then all this whole podcast that we've talked about, where is the problem in society? Well, that we just talked about with the shooter and there's a problem with society. You might be able to trace it back to fucking media.
Yeah, there's no doubt that
not social media, the media. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So media in general, social media too, being in if you will.
Well, yeah, people touch
in extension of just general media.
But why aren't we hearing about such cases? I think the media should be non-biased. Obviously, it's shown to be very biased, but it should not. It should be non-biased.
It should be.
Information should be information. It should not be a color situation. It should not be a Democratic situation or a Republican situation. It should not be a LBGYT fucking TGIF fucking situation. It shouldn't be a Hispanic situation. It should be information. That's it. It shouldn't have a color. It shouldn't have a barrier. Information is real information. There should not be a fucking lockbox on what we're hearing and what we're getting. That's what we're at. Is we're getting filters in our information, so it's fucking over society in great leaps and bounds.
Huge leaps and bounds. So I'm gonna phrase it in you use the word information many a time, right?
Right.
So I'm gonna go ahead and let you know now that in this globalization thing, information is money. Information is actually you can turn that into dollars.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
For
You can maybe something ahead of time, right? You can make that profit for you. So that being said, I would totally go with you. The fact that they're shadowing what kind of information we're getting and what kind of information we're not is a lot due to our stature in or the average person's stature in society. we're at a level where we can receive this amount of information because we're only worth that amount, or our given intake
Right.
is worth so much.
We're the peons,
Yeah,
so we don't
exactly.
deserve to know everything.
Exactly, and to know everything, you really, like Homeboy said, you got to search it out. You got to go to Google. You got to read all the threads. You don't just click on like, oh, Kyrie Irving's having a hot week, or Kylie Jenner finally had her baby, or whatever. Like, you just click on, you read all the threads, and then you find out the shit that's really going on. But you got to seek it out. Otherwise, the companies that are supposed to sell you this stuff, they're only giving you what is worth so much money to them.
Right. Yeah, and that's a shame because, like I said,
You got to be willing to pay for more, like for that info.
it's not
Gotta be
good,
like
man.
Dropping 1% dollars to know it all, and even 1% dollars ain't knowing it all.
They
You
get
gotta-
like a special email at the end of the year, at the end of the month, you know,
Yeah.
some shit like that. Yeah, man, it's crazy. So something's got to change.
There's no doubt that something's got to change. What it's gonna be, how it's gonna happen, when or where. I constantly ask myself when that's gonna be. What's gonna be the spark that lights the flame? Who's gonna be the seed that gets this shit growing? Right? Oh man, I wonder. I constantly think about it all the time.
I will say this though: those kids from that school in Florida are trying their fucking hardest
They are. They
to
are.
make something happen. Unfortunately, I think they're children, so nobody's really giving them the benefit of the doubt to be like, oh, these kids don't even know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe they do.
They don't have their own money.
You know what? But I tell you what, they may not know, we may not be giving them credit for what they think they know and what they're hollering about. But the root situation is something needs to change because these shootings at schools are getting out of hand. And I personally, being a father, I don't want to be sending my fucking kid to school and getting a call like, hey, there's a bomb threat or a fucking whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, of course not.
So if it could happen, it needs to happen. And like the father said, we don't need to be.
Red or bluing it, saying
Yes.
like, oh, Democrats are going to solve this problem, Republicans are going to solve this problem.
That should be the biggest thing. Is it shouldn't come down to fucking what I feel and what you feel. It should be about the right move.
Again, like, I got to state that what people really don't know about the politics game is that the Republican Party and the Democratic Party and all these, they're their own entity. They're not public servants. They're a private corporation suiting their own needs. Any corporation that you could think of, any of the biggest, baddest ones, Amazon to the lowest and the weakest links, fucking Targets and shit like that. They all have a bottom line that's got to be fed. They got to keep people happy and like, oh, we got to make quotas. Well, that's exactly what the Republicans and the Democrats got to do. They got to make quotas, so they got to make money to keep their whole little
Funding.
Yeah. They're not a public entity.
And it's a lot of
they're
fucking
not out there
money.
for you and me. They're out there for their own endeavors.
Yeah. Greg, I was watching George Carlin the other day. And,
I love that vato. I wish he was around.
He was way
right
ahead
now.
of his time.
So I wish he was.
But he fucking says, he goes, if you think the government cares about you, they don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you.
I love Carlin,
That was
guys.
Carlin. And I was like,
Yeah.
he's so right, man. He's so right. We're going to wrap this bitch up. But humanity, guys, that's...
Keep it alive.
Yeah, that gentleman who lost his daughter, that was a plea for humanity, and that guy stands for what we like to say, we like to end this podcast with, is humanity. Do something good for one another. Doesn't have to be huge, doesn't have to
Yeah.
cost money. Just
Doesn't have to be red or blue.
Yeah, open the door for somebody, say, hey, how's it going, to a random person. It's that easy.
I think a simple acknowledgement is what these people are looking for.
Yeah.
The world doesn't care about me. Fuck them too, right? Like, it's simple acknowledgement, a look in the eye, addressing someone.
That's the truth, because that kid, that shooter from that school, he was his name was Nicolas Cruz.
Yeah.
Just think if somebody would have took the time to say, hey man, what's going on, every once in a while, would he have shut up that fucking school? You know what I mean?
I highly doubt it. I mean,
Exactly.
there's no guarantee, but I highly doubt it.
Right.
If he'd had a rapport with anyone, he'd probably have, a lot less anxiety.
So that's what we're asking for. You know, there may be a gentleman who's at the store right now. He could be at HEB right now, and he's thinking about killing himself. And all of a sudden, some fucking homie who just got off of work is like, "Hey man, what's going on? Hadn't seen you in a while." You know, or whatever. Like, where you been? How's things going? How's the wife? Whatever. And that changes it, everything. You know, so those little acts is what we like to end our podcast with, and give that a shot. You know, we do it. I like to do it on a daily basis.
Are you human? Show
Yeah.
your humanity.
Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and end this right now. We just got the verification of its
So
ending.
you better cut it out. Quick.
Yeah, well, y'all guys be good. It's February 23rd, and this is episode number 22. If we would did it, dude, if we would have did it yesterday, we could have did the 22 on 22.
Ooh.
We're good at doing that.
Yeah, we are.
Dang, oh, we missed it by a day. Anyway, y'all guys be good. We'll be back with another episode next week.
Peace. Humanity.
Yeah.
Keep it alive.
I've been deceived by the likes of these who breathe lust. Tell me, who can I trust? Every last one of us. Calumnies surround me on all sides. Who wanna see injustice crushed? Come on, every last one of us.
I didn't know a fucking hour went by that fast, dude. When he said, "Oh, we're gonna cut out," I looked over, I was like, "Holy shit, it is already an hour."